Oh shit, here we go again.
Damn it, CJ, I told you before we started, if you were gonna use that type of language, I wasn't gonna let you on the channel. Anyway, hello and welcome to Theme Park History, the channel for everything to do with theme parks. Except this video. This video has nothing to do with theme parks. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's time once again to answer your questions. It's time for the 75K Q&A Spectacular Part 2 Electric Boogaloo. So here's how this video is gonna break down. I've separated all the questions we've answered into 3 different categories. Questions about the channel, questions about theme parks, and random questions. Hopefully I was smart enough to include timestamps in the description and the comment section, so if you want to skip around to a specific question, it's a lot easier for you. So I don't want to waste anybody's time because we do have over 60 questions to get through. Let's begin.
Let's do it!
What inspired you to create theme park history? So I've already answered this question before in the 25K Q&A, but it's only right to answer it again because there's so many new fans. The inspiration comes from a gift I received from my sister back in Christmas 2017. You probably can figure out by now, but I'm a big fan of Universal theme parks. I mean, just look at the logo. I grew up in the 90s as a kid going to the park a lot more than Disney, and I've always liked the Universal parks more. I don't know if it's because of the film franchises that I watched more as a kid, or just the rides themselves. So as I've gotten older, I've paid attention to more than just what Universal is promoting. You know, looking into rumors and news updates, construction updates, you know, all those photos, forums, and obviously, for my own sake, looking into the history of the parks, learning how they came to be. So my sister picked me up literally a piece of theme park history for Christmas, a 1989 Universal Studios Florida brochure. So you're probably asking yourself, why is this brochure so important? Why is this such a cool gift to get? Well, for 2 reasons. Number 1, look at the condition it's in. I mean, it looks brand new. I don't know where this person that she bought it from got it, but they've probably had it in a box or somewhere very pristine for over 30 years. So it's very hard to find something like that in the condition it's in. But besides its near mint condition, the most important thing about the brochure is the fact that it was released while the park was still under construction. So because of that, Universal didn't have any photos to show off of any of the attractions because, well, they weren't done yet. So everything inside the brochure is just concept art, and I love the concept art from this brochure. Honestly, if I could find original prints of it, I would blow it up, frame it, and I put it in my office. So while I was looking through the brochure on Christmas Day, I came to realize that, hey, not a lot still stands with the park when it opened in 1990. The only attraction still featured is the E.T. Adventure. So I got curious, as I do, when I started to look up information about these old rides and what made them tick and who created them and what went into actually building these attractions I grew up with. And I quickly came to realize that nobody was covering them on YouTube. A lot of Disney, but not a lot of Universal there. So as somebody with way too much free time on their hands at that point, I decided I was going to create a YouTube channel dedicated to the history of Universal theme parks. However, one thing popped up whenever I was discussing it with family and friends, that I would run out of Universal attractions to cover, and that viewers would most likely ask me to cover other theme parks, specifically Disney. So the concept got changed from just covering Universal theme parks to theme parks in general. So I started working on Twister Ride It Out, and in February of 2018, we released the first theme park history video. And now as we come up on the 2-year anniversary, we're over 75,000 subscribers, and it still doesn't feel real to me. I still think back and say it's a huge what if I never received that brochure, because I don't think there was anything there at the time to push me into creating the YouTube channel. So I owe a big thank you to my sister for giving me that brochure, because without it, I don't think I get the one little spark of inspiration to start the channel. Yes, I know that's Journey to Imagination. I did that on purpose. How much time and research does each video take? Each video probably takes me about 10 to 12 days to get done. It's about 4 days of research and writing, 3 days of doing the voiceover work, and I need at least 4 to 5 days to edit the video together. As for the research, we find most of our information through online articles or old newspaper articles, books. If we can find them, old press kits have a lot of good information that you can't really find online. Those informative travel channel specials that we feature a lot in the videos, they actually have a lot of good information too. And surprisingly, interviews. Most of the interviews that we've found for some of the attractions like Star Tours and the Indiana Jones adventure, they had a lot of information that I couldn't find actually written, and they were coming out of the mouth of people like Tony Baxter and George Lucas, so I feel like they wouldn't be lying about that type of stuff. You know, we do spend a good amount of time doing research on the attractions we're covering. For the Florida videos, we usually are looking through the Orlando Sentinel, their old newspapers if we can, because they have a lot of opening day information or announcements about the attractions that are coming, and once we find that information, especially like from newspapers, we try to include it in the video itself. Will you be covering theme parks outside of Universal and Disney? So I'm not going to sugarcoat it, I'm not going to lie to you, I did drop the ball on covering other parks in year 2. We had plans to cover Knott's Berry Tales, Kingdom of the Dinosaurs, and Disaster Transport, but I dropped all 3 of those projects because of supply and demand. Basically what that means is that a lot of you were requesting attractions from Disney and Universal, and as a channel trying to grow, I decided that we would focus specifically on those 2 parks, because let's be honest, more people know about those 2 parks versus the smaller ones. But that being said, I do have plans on covering those parks we didn't cover in year 2. Hopefully this time I just keep my word. But I know when I say everything theme park history, the channel for everything to do with theme parks, it's kind of hypocritical to not cover anything besides Universal and Disney. So I'm definitely going to do that in year 3. I'm going to cover stuff outside of those 2 parks. What is your favorite video you've done so far? You know, honestly, it's probably the Men in Black Alien Attack video, just because of the fact that we put on the Agent J persona. It's probably the most creative idea I've had for a video so far, and I've honestly had a lot of fun coming up with the script for that. It's a lot more loose whenever I was Agent J, and to be honest, the whole idea of it being a recruitment video I think worked out pretty well. What was one of the harder attractions to find information on for your videos? Definitely the Haunted Castle at Six Flags Great Adventure. I mean, we did a lot of research about what happened the day of the fire, looking into news articles and the investigations afterwards, but as soon as we released that video, we had people in the comments section stating that they were there the day of the fire and what we were reporting was wrong. But again, it's kind of hard to say what happened because you have so many people giving you different stories. All I know is that people lost their lives that day, and it's a tragedy that Six Flags doesn't really pay much attention to, and it's kind of sad in its own way. Another problem with that video was the fact that there's really no footage of the attraction itself, so we had to do our best to stretch it out with the photos we found to make it a full video. But again, what do you expect? This was around the late 70s, early 80s. People didn't have cell phones, recording POVs of the rides they were going on. What is a theme park attraction you would like to make a video on that hasn't been covered yet? Hands down, it's one of my favorite attractions. It's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And of course, if I'm talking about it now, I'm pretty sure we're going to cover it in year 3. It is probably my favorite Disney attraction. I have to think about that for a while, but off the top of my head, that's the first attraction I ever went on at a Disney park, and I really have always enjoyed it. Which other theme park YouTubers do you watch, and have you considered collaborations with them? I watch mostly all of them, to be honest, whenever I get a chance to, and I'm not working on my own videos. But if you're asking for names, let's see, Fast Pass Facts comes to mind, Expedition Theme Park, Yesterworld, and Orlando Park Stop. Usually whenever they release a video, I stop whatever I'm doing and I turn it on. As for collaborations with other YouTubers, I'm open to anything. Doesn't matter who it is. I only ask people that if you want to do a collaboration, that you're willing to put the time in to help make the collaboration work and go smoothly. How has theme park history affected your life since it has gotten quite the following? Honestly, I treat the channel a little bit more like a business now than a hobby. Now, I'm still having fun, don't take that the wrong way, but now it's like I plan ahead for the videos we're gonna cover, I'm paying people to create intros and do other work behind the scenes. We have merchandise now, and I'm working on the Patreon, and just in general, it's a lot more than just, oh hey, I feel like making a video. It's like, no, you gotta make a video now, you gotta put a video out every 2 weeks, dude. So there's been nights where I've stayed up real late getting the videos done, and even redoing entire sections because I wasn't happy with the quality. But that goes with the territory. More people are watching, more people are subscribed, so they expect a level of quality that I have to meet. I mean, just a few months back, I actually hired a speaking coach to watch our videos and tell me what I can do better, because we had a decent amount of people complaining that I was speaking too fast. Now, according to some people, I speak too slow, so you can't please everybody. But to be honest, I've been more focused than ever since starting the channel. It gives me something to look forward to when I get home from work. Just keeps me going. I'm not just standing still or sitting watching television doing nothing. I'm always doing something, which is pretty good for me. But it's gonna get more stressful probably as the channel grows and we try to add more content, but that's just a challenge I'm willing to take on. What led you to creating Theme Park History Express? We created Theme Park History Express as a way to get more content out on the channel. Basically, we got a lot of requests for attractions or shows that I thought didn't fit under theme park history. These smaller attractions that don't really have much history to them, or they're not major attractions in their own way. So I figured instead of just ignoring them completely, why not give them their own short series instead? And we've done that, and I think it's been a success so far. And I know a lot of people are asking, when are we going to cover Disney attractions as TPHE? Soon. Year 3 will have a couple. I already have them written down. I'm not going to reveal them for obvious reasons, but we're going to broaden more than just Universal for that series. Will you be covering the history of theme parks in general instead of just attractions? Short answer, yes. Long-term answer is eventually. The problem is I'm trying to figure out a proper way to tackle covering theme parks. Because if I cover a theme park that's still open and something changes, the video will become outdated. So I'm currently working on the first video that focuses on one of my favorite theme parks, and I think I figured out a way to do so that doesn't date the video itself, so fingers crossed whenever that comes out. How long do you think you'll do theme park history? Have you ever considered doing something other than this? A goal I've always had in mind for the channel is to do 100 theme park history videos, not including the Express series. I feel like 100 different videos about 100 different attractions is a pretty good log to have, and by my calculations, if I do 24 videos a year, that means we would wrap up around the end of year 5. No promises I get that far though. As for doing something else besides this, I've already in the past done other types of YouTube channels. I've done a Let's Play channel, a gaming news channel, I've done a fantasy sports channel, wrestling. They've never panned out. So I really feel that I've been trying for the last 10 years to get a YouTube channel off the ground and running, that this is it. Once theme park history is finished, I think I'm calling it quits. But never say never, because if the channel does grow and become much more successful, and I'm able to hire people to help me with the videos, I can dedicate my time to one of the projects I have in mind. But, that's a bunch of what ifs, if it ever happens. If you weren't working on theme park history, what other videos would you produce? If I wasn't making videos on theme parks, I would probably try once again to make videos on video games, because I've been playing them since I'm 3 years old. I've always been a big fan of series like Sequelitis, What Happened, and The Gaming Historian in general. I really like those informational types of videos, especially when it comes to video games and its development, or just concepts in general, that you don't really hear much people talk about. I don't know if they would be as good as those 3 I mentioned, but I'd like to try my hand at that. Any way you can upload videos more often. I feel like a video every 2 weeks isn't that long. When you compare it to other YouTubers that create the same type of content, it's around the same time frame, but I know lately I've dropped the ball and we've been a lot slower in releasing videos, so I'm trying to create a backlog so that doesn't happen. You gotta remember, it's just myself working on the videos right now, either on my days off or after I get home from work, and we don't make that much revenue from the channel to be able to hire somebody to help us out. Do you have any tips for starting a YouTube channel? I want to start a channel similar to yours, but do Six Flags rides. So what, you want to create your own channel and think you can do this better than me? You want to fight about it? I'm kidding, don't take it serious, I'm just joking with you. For tips, I'll give you 3 because I feel like they are the catalyst of creating a YouTube channel. The first one is just do it. Honestly, there's probably a lot of good ideas by many people out there that never come to fruition because they're not willing to take the risk to do so. I mean, I failed YouTube a couple of times times already, but that hasn't stopped me from trying again and again. You won't know what you have until you give it a shot. And if you fail, at least you tried. There's nothing wrong with that. So give it a go. Second thing, when you actually talk about the channel itself, most important part is the audio. You can have some of the best content out there, but if it sounds like you're coming from a tin can or from a fast food speaker, people are going to be turned off immediately. So make sure that your audio is pretty good, that you speak well. It's a little bit of a irony coming from myself, but if you don't have good audio, people are going to tune out immediately. And the third piece of advice is that you're going to suck. And I mean that in a really nice way. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither will your YouTube channel. Go ahead and look at my past videos and how terrible they are and how we've gotten better over the years. And it's not just me. You can go back and watch some of the other YouTubers who do the same type of thing and see how they've gotten better through every video. Practice makes perfect. And the more time you put into your craft, the better you'll get at it. Oh, also don't do sub for sub. That doesn't help you. Stay away from clickbait, people hate that, and keep your expectations low. Your first couple of videos won't get a million views, you know, YouTube doesn't work that way. You gotta build an audience, the audience gotta get to know you, and then you just gotta keep creating content that your viewers want to see, and hopefully YouTube will do the right thing and share your video to other people that like that same type of content. No promises, because it is YouTube after all, they change everything like every day, but if you stay consistent with your product, the people will come. I mean, that's all I gotta say. Actually, I take that back. I have one more thing to say. If you actually are going to create the channel, I wish you nothing but good luck. Do you prefer old or new Universal? Old Universal, hands down. Might be a little bit of a bias because I grew up in the 90s going to that park, but when you think about it, you had large-scale sets, you had impressive audio animatronics, pyrotechnics, and each ride at Universal Studios Florida felt different and unique. New Universal does not have that today. Obviously, it's a lot of cookie cutter using the same ride system. It's lost some of its magic, obviously. I still say to this day that the summer of '96 is probably the most impressive lineup Universal ever had. You had Kongfrontation, Earthquake, Jaws, E.T., Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, and T2 3D just opened. That lineup there can go toe-to-toe with any other theme park at the time. Do you think the removal of Jaws to add Diagon Alley was a good decision? That's a tough one. Oof. My heart says no, but I know Comcast says yes. Look, I understand, I'm right there with many people. Jaws is one of my favorite attractions. It's a classic, and it was removed for something that was going to make a lot of money for Universal. But that's the thing, right? That's always been the thing about Universal. They don't care about their history, and they know that eventually all the attractions they have in their park have to be closed down and replaced with something that's popular at the time. And while the attraction was considered one of the best Universal had ever created, let's be honest, there was never any wait times for it. So you have this massive money-making IP next door at Islands of Adventure and Potter. You're looking for a way to boost attendance at your other park because nobody wants to go to it. Jaws was taking up a lot of land. It cost a lot of money to keep it maintained. Fuel wasn't cheap. So at the end of the day, business-wise, yes, it made sense to replace Jaws with Diagon Alley. But from a fan perspective, you removed one of the classic attractions that came from a disastrous grand opening, rising to becoming one of the best attractions at the park. And they did it dirty. But at the end of the day, it's not about what your fans think of, it's how many people can you pack in the park. And that's what Comcast was thinking about when they replaced Jaws. Do you think we'll ever see a new Back to the Future or Jaws ride? I hate to say it out loud, but no, we'll never see either of those franchises in their own ride again at any Universal park. You know, this goes back to the Diagon Alley answer. It's not about your sentiment, it's not about what the fans really like, it's about drawing in the casual vacationer to come visit your park and spend money. And yes, I know that the rides were classics, the movies are classics, and it will always be that way, but you gotta think about it. People don't really care about Back to the Future as a ride or Jaws. They want what's new and hip and exciting. And Universal or Comcast, point the finger at whoever you want there, knows this, and that's why they don't really give a damn about the rides. They'll replace it with whatever's popular because they know that's what sells tickets to the park. But can we get an F for both of those attractions and what I just said, because I feel very depressed saying that shit out loud? Do you think it's better for Universal to specifically focus on movie-based rides and lands? Or do you think they should expand to create their own IPs for the parks? Bonus, should The Mandalorian make its way to Galaxy's Edge? You know, it's very hard to answer that question because the IPs that Universal has are actually movies. I mean, outside of Hollywood Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket and Disaster, everything is really based on movies. I understand the urge to create your own unique IPs to draw people to your parks, but to be honest, Universal was never created to be that. Everything has always been based around movies, and they've always said that eventually each attraction will have a lifespan that hits zero, and they have to replace it because, well, the popularity or just the attraction itself will become outdated, and people will not care about it. They did a really great job with the Lost Continent, and look how that's turned out to be, replaced by an IP. So I think for Universal's sake, they should just stick to whatever movie franchises they can get for their parks, because it's what the park is built to be. You ride the movies, you're the star of the attraction, and the best way to do it is by basing it on popular movies that people really like, or tend to like. Everybody has their own taste. As for the Mandalorian showing up in Galaxy's Edge, I really don't know if that fits. Now, don't go crazy, I haven't watched the show yet, I've only seen the Baby Yoda memes, but I don't really think the time frame of where the show takes place fits within Galaxy's Edge. So I think the show takes place before the time frame of where Galaxy's Edge is, where Batuu is right now. So bringing him some way or form into Batuu, you're gonna get some Star Wars fans that say that's not canon, it doesn't work. But hey, that might not stop Disney, they don't really care about the franchise anymore, am I right? Whatever makes them money. Don't be surprised if Baby Yoda shows up in the parks by April. Probably by April, they'll have some type of doll that people are gonna go crazy for, and you can see it all over Disney Twitter. What Universal property would be good for a themed land, and why? See, that's tough because of the fact that many of their properties are already featured as a land or, obviously a ride at the parks. Trying to think of an IP that they don't have right now featured at the parks that should be there. I don't know if they outright own the rights to Pacific Rim. I would like to see a Japan with the kaijus and Jaegers. You can do an attraction like that, you can have some animatronics going at it, I think that'd be pretty cool. It's been heavily rumored that the Universal monsters are getting their own land at Epic Universe, so I look forward to that. It's just a weird time for Universal because many of the IPs that aren't featured at the parks right now are rumored to be in the Epic Universe, so there isn't really much to say what can you put in a park right now that Universal isn't capitalizing on. Do you think Universal will eventually move on from Marvel and The Simpsons, and what will they replace them with? Alright, so I have to be a jerk here because so many people keep getting it wrong in the comment sections of Spider-Man and The Simpsons, so I'm going to break it down once and for all with both of the deals on the table. Just because Disney owns The Simpsons and Marvel now, that doesn't mean Universal has to shut down any of their attractions based on those characters. The two deals are in place with The Simpsons and Marvel were from 20th Century Fox and Marvel when they were separate companies before Disney owned them. So whatever the contract was between those companies and Universal before Disney bought them, by law, Disney has to honor those deals. The rumor being the Simpsons deal goes until 2028, and the Marvel deal is still standing as long as the attractions at Islands of Adventure are upkept and in good condition, which could be for a very, very long time. So no, you're not going to see these Marvel characters or Simpsons characters until the contracts are up. And if Disney did try to sue Universal to get these characters in their parks or find a way to void the contract, it probably wouldn't happen. Think about it. They bought Marvel back in 2008. It's been 11 years and they haven't been able to get rid of Marvel Superhero Island, so I'm pretty sure that contract is ironclad. As for the Disney fanboys who say, why doesn't Universal just give them the characters? They're the competition. They're the one thing, at least in Florida, that Universal has that Disney doesn't. Why would you give away the most popular IP at the moment to your competition? The best example I can give you off the top of my head is that you just bought the brand new iPhone 11 and your friend wants that phone for nothing. No exchanges, no trades, no deals, they just want the phone. Are you going to give it to them? Probably not. It's a lot of money on the table that you're going to just throw away to give to somebody while you get nothing in return. Plus, I don't think Disney actually wants The Simpsons in their parks. Yes, it's been around for 30 years, but I think the popularity of the franchise has dwindled. It's sure a cultural icon, but for them to spend millions of dollars to build their own Simpsons ride just doesn't seem to make much sense. Sure, walk-around characters at, Disney Hollywood Studios would make sense, but that's not really, I think, what Disney would want to do. Plus, remember, Universal is now paying Disney to have these characters in their parks. So for Disney, even though you don't have the characters, you're still making a profit on them. I think right now Disney is fine not having The Simpsons and those Marvel characters in some of their parks, because they're still getting paid, and the parks are still doing pretty well without them. But for some laughs and hoo-has, let's just say that Disney did get Marvel out of Universal. I think the most logical replacement would be DC. If they found a way to get Batman and Superman in the parks, I think that would be a pretty good replacement to have. You don't have to change much about the attractions, you can still keep it a superhero-themed land, and honestly, Superman and Batman are still pretty popular. Not as popular as Marvel, but people know who those characters are, and they'll do pretty well for themselves. As for replacing The Simpsons, I really don't have an answer. Honestly, you would probably have to redo the entire area of that park, so screw it, bring back Hill Valley, and bring back the Back to the Future ride. Good enough for me. Do you think Jurassic World is a worthy upgrade for Jurassic Park? I won't say worthy. I've watched enough POV videos of the new attraction, and while it's very impressive, it just lacks the charm that Jurassic Park had. Now, that being said, I still think it was a much needed upgrade to the attraction. It had become outdated, the animatronics definitely needed a lot of love, and you always kind of knew the writing was on the wall once Jurassic World did so well at the box office. So I'm kind of glad there's still some type of Jurassic attraction at the park, instead of them just replacing it with something entirely screen-based. I'm still curious to see what's going to happen to the Islands of Adventure, Universal Studios Japan, and Universal Studios Singapore attractions. We know Universal Studios Beijing is getting its own unique Jurassic World ride. Is that eventually going to replace these Jurassic Park attractions? Are we going to get the upgrades that Hollywood got? It's very interesting, and I don't know what the time frame is, but if you're interested in going to the parks to ride Jurassic Park, I do it sooner rather than later, because you never know when the attractions are going to close for good. Thoughts on Poseidon's Fury? Very underrated show, one of my favorite attractions at Islands of Adventure. I love the facade, I love the queue, I love the story of the show that's being told. The live actor does a pretty good job time and time again. The pyrotechnic effects are pretty good, and obviously everybody remembers the iconic water vortex tunnel, which is pretty cool in itself. But you know, the show is dated. The Lost Continent has lost a lot of its charm because of Potter, so if they ever do decide to close the Lost Continent and Poseidon's Fury, I wouldn't be that sad. Thoughts on the new Hagrid's roller coaster? I haven't had a chance to go on it yet. When I went down to Florida in March, it wasn't open yet. It wasn't doing any soft openings, nothing like that. So I never actually got a chance to experience it. I've actually avoided watching any POV videos of it because I don't want to be spoiled. That being said, just from a bigger perspective, it's probably one of the most impressive attractions Universal has created in the last 10 years. It's nice to see them make something that isn't a simulator, an actual full-blown roller coaster with animatronics and drops and a bunch of other stuff that makes it really unique in itself. I don't know if it's a worthy successor to Dueling Dragons Dragon Challenge, but it definitely is much more family-friendly, which I guess for Potter is what Universal is looking for. That will be the first attraction I go on whenever I go back to Islands of Adventure, hands down. That's if the bees are not attacking everybody on the ride. Thoughts on Skull Island, Reign of Kong? Better or worse than Kongfrontation? It's definitely not better than Kongfrontation, I'll tell you that much. It's actually quite disappointing, to be honest. I mean, King Kong's a pretty iconic character when it comes to Universal theme parks. You know, the King Kong encounter, Kongfrontation, kind of real cornerstones of what Universal theme parks came to be. And something about Skull Island is just so disappointing in itself. Yes, the entrance to the attraction is pretty cool, the queue itself is pretty cool, but everything else is relatively lackluster. They took whatever they had from Hollywood, added 3 scenes to it, and while it's an impressive animatronic, it doesn't compare to what the Kongfrontation animatronics were like. I still feel that if you've never gone on Kongfrontation, this is probably a better ride than you expect, but as somebody who considers Kongfrontation to be one of the best attractions Universal's ever made, this doesn't compare to it at all. That being said, if you're at the park, you still should go on it. If you're expecting something like Kongfrontation, you're going to be in for a bad time. Best of the 3 outdoor roller coasters at Universal Orlando. Definitely give me the Hulk. I haven't gone on Hagrid's yet, and every time I've gone on Rip Ride and Rocket, it's been a bad time, so by process of elimination, Hulk wins. Marry, Kiss, Kill, Revenge of the Mummy, Hollywood Rip Ride and Rocket, and The Incredible Hulk. Well, I would definitely kill Rip Ride and Rocket. I'd kiss the Hulk, that's weird to say out loud with no context, and I would marry Revenge of the Mummy. Just something about the story for Revenge Revenge of the Mummy is pretty cool. And you know what Revenge of the Mummy has that the other two don't? Brendan frickin' Fraser. That's it. Anything with Brendan Fraser automatically wins for me. Imagine that Universal Studios Parks and Resorts offered you a proposal to do 2 attractions for it. What would those attractions be? Well, right off the bat, the first one would be a Godzilla attraction. Pretty much it would be like a dark ride through San Francisco or some other city that Godzilla's been in. He's fighting one of the other monsters. At the end of the attraction, you come face to face with Godzilla, who roars at you, and that's it. It'd probably scare the crap out of people, but at the same time, it'd be so freaking awesome. And the second would be to build a proper Fast and Furious attraction. Yeah, I said that. Build a proper Fast and Furious attraction. If possible, make it like Test Track. Have you go around the city, and then you have this huge drag race at the end where you're going like 50 to 60 miles per hour. Do the franchise some justice. Redeem itself from that piece of crap Supercharged. If Universal Studios Orlando gave you the choice, would you rather be the main manager builder for the upcoming Jurassic Park Coaster or the main manager for Halloween Horror Nights 2020? Give me the Jurassic Park Coaster any day, because I feel bad for whoever's running Halloween Horror Nights 30. A lot of pressure on whoever's the creative director, whoever's running that event, to not mess it up. What is your favorite Universal Studios Horror Nights attraction of all time? There's only one answer to this. The Thing, assimilation from Halloween Horror Nights 17. What is your favorite Universal monster / film? Does The Thing count? What's your favorite Universal Studios horror film of all time? Once again, The Thing. I think there's a trend here. What do you think will be featured at Universal Horror Nights next Halloween? It's 30 Years of Fear. I feel that after 10 years of him not being around, I think we're going to see Fear again in some shape or form. A lot of the classic icons showing up, and a bunch of the old scare zones and houses. Fingers crossed, because I'm actually going to the event, so that's what I'm hoping for. What horror film do you think might make a great haunted house at Halloween Horror Nights? That's tough because of the fact that they've done a lot of films that have been turned into houses. Honestly, it's a shame that it hasn't become a house yet, because Warner Brothers does their own haunted houses now. It's not a film, but I've always said that I would like to see the video game Outlast be turned into a haunted house. You're in an insane asylum with a bunch of psycho killers, and the only way you can escape is by running from them, and your means of being able to see in the dark is using a night vision camera. I feel like if you were able to take that concept and put it into a house, you'd have my money immediately. Also, do you think Disney World would build a Kingdom Hearts ride? I highly doubt that Disney would. I know the franchise is pretty popular, but let's be honest, it's popular because of the Disney characters involved. Yes, I know there's Final Fantasy and other characters from just Kingdom Hearts in general, like Sora, but I don't think theme park goers care about Kingdom Hearts. Just my take, don't hate me for it, but I just feel like they're not the same type of fan. What are your thoughts on Universal's new theme park, Epic Universe? Well, I can tell you right off the bat, I hate saying Epic Universe. I'd rather be saying Fantastic Worlds, but it is what it is. Fantastic Worlds just worked so much better as a name, and it complemented Islands of Adventure because you were going from islands to worlds, not islands to universe. Kind of sounds a little bit weird, it doesn't fit that progression. But besides the name, I do have some concerns about the park itself. I mean, its location isn't that far from Universal Orlando Resort, but you still have to travel about 20 minutes out of your way to get there. And besides actually the location itself, everything that we supposedly know about the park doesn't really impress me that much. Sure, we know that Super Nintendo Land is going to be the main marquee attraction of the park, but every IP outside of that is a little bit shaky right now. You have the Universal Monsters, which is very nice to see them being featured, but we don't know in what way, shape, or form, and are they actually an appeal to people when they show up to the park? Then you have How to Train Your Dragon, which is a fine franchise in itself, very popular, it did very well at the box office. Universal owns it, so it doesn't really cost them that much money to have it. But it just released its last movie in the trilogy. I mean, how popular is this franchise going to be when the park opens in 3 years? And then you have the Fantastic Beasts franchise, which sure, it's technically a spin-off of Potter, but how popular are these movies and the franchise itself? It hasn't done that well at the box office compared to what people thought it was going to do. So you really have to ask yourself, when this third movie comes out, whenever that is, and the park opens, are people really still going to care about Fantastic Beasts? It's kind of a growing trend, like, will people care about How to Train Your Dragon, Fantastic Beasts, and the Universal Monsters? Obviously, Nintendo is the big draw for this park, but the real question is, will it be worth your trip going there more than once? I definitely think they're banking on the Nintendo attractions being so well that people will still want to come over and over again. And with the expansions that will eventually come to the park, probably something Pokemon related and who knows what else, it probably will end up being a good park. But their initial lineup that's been rumored doesn't actually make me very excited. And I definitely won't be rushing to go to the park whenever it opens, if it's going to be 2023 or later. How do you feel about Super Nintendo World coming to Universal, and are you excited for it? I think it's a great idea by Universal, because let's be honest, they haven't really had many of their own IPs be that popular to draw people into their parks. And honestly, it's an unprecedented step when you think about Universal bringing in video game franchises to the theme parks. Sure, we've seen it elsewhere, but not on a level like this before. And to be honest, I'm very excited for Nintendo. I've grown up playing many of the games, and to see these games actually get their own dedicated lands with their own attractions that will be amazing, count me in. I can't wait to go on Mario Kart, be losing, get the blue shell, and ruin somebody's day. As for the guy who asked, do you like Half-Life Alyx? I'm a huge fan of the Half-Life franchise, but I don't have VR, so I don't think I'm actually going to be able to experience the new game. I know they're trying to push VR, but I really hope Valve brings it to consoles or PC without the VR, just for a way for people to experience it. What do you think is the most likely Nintendo franchise to get a ride after the already announced Mario and Donkey Kong rides? Well, besides those two franchises, we know Yoshi is getting its own Omni-Mover Dark Ride. Honestly, they'll probably go with Pokemon because it's so popular, but if you're asking for my personal preference, I want a Star Fox ride. I want to be in my own R-Wing in all-range mode, fighting a bunch of guys, and I want Falco yelling at me, "Hey Einstein, I'm on your side." That is the dream come true, my friend. On an unrelated note, what is your favorite rock album? Hands down, it's All the Right Reasons by Nickelback. Definitely one of my favorite... I can't say that with a straight face. God, no. Seriously, my favorite rock album is El Camino by the Black Keys. Really bunch of good tracks on that. Really good driving music, to be honest. Do you think that Universal Studios should make an Alien ride just like Disney tried to, but better? I mean, they kinda did when you think about it when they made Men in Black Alien Attack. If you're talking about Alien Encounter, I'd be all for it. I think you could remove Jimmy Fallon and put that attraction there if you wanted to. Problem is, they don't own the rights to Alien, and I don't think Disney would give it to Universal. And even though it would work fine at a Universal theme park, there would still be people complaining about how scary the attraction is. God, I would give for anything to have an attraction like that at a park once again. I think it would do pretty well. I think people would be actually pretty surprised on how fun it would be. Probably terrifying, but still fun at the same time. Michael Eisner asks, do you like what I did during my time in the company? First off, Mr. Eisner, let me just say that I'm a huge fan of yourself, your work within Disney and outside of Disney before you came to the company. Really good stuff. I know you might get a bad rap, people might think of you as that Family Guy joke from a couple of years ago, and that you've kind of become like a meme in the theme park history community, but honestly speaking, I liked what you did when you were running Disney. I mean, if you never made the choices and steps that you did, I don't think Disney would be where it is today. People don't remember that Disney was in a really bad spot in the late 70s, that they were the target of numerous takeovers by outside companies, and once you came in, you were able to steady the ship. Disney became a huge powerhouse once again. Whether it was buying ABC, ESPN, or Miramax Films, the rejuvenation of the animation department for your movies, or in our case specifically, the rejuvenation of the aging theme parks. Bringing in attractions like Star Tours, like Splash Mountain, like the Indiana Jones Adventure. Willing to take the risk to create new theme parks like Disney Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, Euro Disneyland. Yes, I know that gets a bad rap, but you were being very ambitious at the time, and I can't blame you for it. I think the problem is that you were there too long in your position. It happens to many people in high-ranking positions. After a while, people just get sick of it. And I know people like to focus on your failures, but honestly, you did a lot more good than bad for the company. I think the best way to sum up your time at Disney is The Dark Knight. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain, and that's what happened to you. I wouldn't really worry though. I think the way things are going with Bob Chapek, eventually whenever he's done, people are going to say he's probably the worst, and people are going to actually ask for the good old days when Michael Eisner was running the company. Also, thank you for trying to make something different with Extraterrestrial Alien Encounter. It was ambitious, ambitious, ahead of its time, and unfortunately, it just never worked out. Of all the Disney parks out there right now, which one is your personal favorite? If we're going off of parks that I've been to, it's always going to be Magic Kingdom. But in general, when it comes to Disney parks, it will always be Tokyo Disney Sea. Just really like the park and what it is and its theming and the lands and the attractions it features. A lot of people say it's the best Disney park, and you know what? I kinda agree with them on it. If you had to choose only one Disney park to go to for the rest of your life, which one would you choose? Definitely Magic Kingdom. It has one of my favorite attractions at Disney, that being Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It's probably my favorite Disney park I've been to, the first Disney park I ever went to. And honestly, I just like the park itself. I like the separated lands. It's a classic theme park that really will never be outdated. How do you feel about Galaxy's Edge? Do you think it's a success or failure? To be quite honest, I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I never really have been. I've seen all the movies, I've played some of the games that have come out over the years, but as a kid I was never really that big of a Star Wars fan. Probably because when I was born, the original trilogy had already been out for a while, and it wasn't until '99 that The Phantom Menace came out. So for the first couple of years, Star Wars wasn't the big thing for me as a kid. That being said, when Galaxy's Edge was announced, I was pretty excited for it, because if there's any franchise that deserves its own land, it definitely is Star Wars. It's pretty popular, it has a lot of stories behind it, and honestly you can make a lot of pretty good attractions for it. Honestly, I don't have any opinions on Galaxy's Edge right now because I haven't experienced it myself. I don't think it's fair to judge something based off of Twitter comments and what YouTube videos you see. I think you have to experience it for yourself in order to make a proper judgment. But I did find it hilarious how everybody was saying that Galaxy's Edge was a failure because of the initial attendance levels, even though half of the land wasn't finished and opened completely yet. Now with the Rise of Resistance open, the park looks like it's always at capacity. They keep running out boarding passes for the new attraction, and every photo I see of Galaxy's Edge is packed. Just goes to show that you can't judge a book by its cover. As for whether or not the verdict is a failure or a success, I say still give it a year and a half. Now with the entire area completely open, more people are inclined to go to the parks that have Galaxy's Edge, and I'm 100% sure that the attendance levels for Hollywood Studios and Disneyland will be on the up and up over the next year. What annoys me though is Disney's approach to these new big themed lands they're building. I don't like the idea of only opening half of a land, or opening a land without the major attraction for it. I feel like it doesn't really warrant people wanting to come visit it if it's not complete. Imagine if Hogsmeade opened back in 2009 at Islands of Adventure, and you got there, and you could go on Dragon Challenge, and you can go on Flight a Hippogriff, but Harry Potter and Forbidden Journey won't be complete for another 6 months. I think a lot of people would have been outraged at that idea, so I don't understand why Disney thinks they can get away with that. I mean, they're already planning that for the Avengers campus at Disney's California Adventure, and I feel like that's gonna come to bite them on the ass. Just to me doesn't make sense business-wise. Star Wars is getting a themed hotel. What other story would you like to see as a themed hotel? It probably won't happen, it'll probably be considered too scary, but I'd like to see the Haunted Mansion become a hotel. I feel like that would actually be a pretty interesting, concept to have. You're in the hotel and during the day everything's fine, but at night things get a little bit spooky and scary. But again, for Disney, that's probably pushing the envelope a little bit too much. Do you think Disney should partner with a video game company to build video game attractions? No, they shouldn't. They shouldn't be copying what Universal does. Just doesn't seem like something Disney would do in the first place. Plus, I feel like outside of Nintendo, there really isn't another video game company that they could partner with to create attractions that fit within the Disney parks. I don't think Sony and Disney would work together. Doesn't seem like a logical pairing between the two. Maybe Sega for Sonic, but even then, that's a little bit of a stretch. I think if it was going to be anybody, it would have been Nintendo, but even Nintendo would have been hesitant to build something within Disney. I feel like the agreement between Universal and Nintendo gives Nintendo a lot of creative control on their attractions, while if they had done a deal with Disney, Disney's Imagineers would have been pushing something on them. Kind of like the reason why Harry Potter never came to Disney. Do you think that Dinosaur, Countdown to Extinction, will actually be replaced by the Indiana Jones ride at Disney's Animal Kingdom? I got a whole bunch of hate for saying that in both of those videos, even though I was only reporting what other Disney news outlets were saying at the time, so don't shoot the messenger for that. That being said, if Disney's attendance levels were suffering, I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to do something drastic like that. I mean, when you think about it, what are you going to replace next at that park? Everest needs its rehab eventually. It's been going strong for a long time. I know Pandora opened, but it only can draw in so many people, and I feel like if they ever decide to make another Indiana Jones movie, there's your synergy between the movie and the attraction itself. I'm not saying that Dinosaur is going anywhere anytime soon, but I still think there's a very small chance that eventually happens. If I'm gonna die on this hill, I'm gonna die on this hill. What is your favorite restaurant in the Walt Disney Resort, and what is your favorite snacks at Disney and Universal theme parks? Favorite place to eat is the Sci-Fi Dine-In Theater restaurant at Magic Kingdom. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the layout, the setting, the fact that you're in your own, car in a drive-in theater. Never actually got to experience that for myself. Plus, I always thought the food from there was pretty good. As for snacks, from Disney, you can give me that Mickey Mouse ice cream pop, the one that's dipped in chocolate that looks like the Mickey Mouse ears. And from Universal, it's the little pretzel poppers from Auntie Anne's. Or a churro. Just give me a churro in general. I'll eat a churro any day of the week. With the new Epcot remodeling happening for Walt Disney World 50th anniversary, what are you most excited for that will be coming to Epcot? Or what do you wish would come back from the old Epcot? Honestly, I'm just happy to see Epcot get some love. I felt that the park has been outdated for a while now, so to see all the new additions coming to Future World are pretty exciting. The World Showcase getting a lot of new additions as well. It's felt like Disney has neglected Epcot for a couple of years now, so all the love it's getting is rightfully deserved. As for bringing something back from old Epcot, just find a place for Horizon somewhere. It was the best ride ever built for Epcot. It's one of the best dark rides ever created by Disney. I feel like it could still work today if you updated the attraction to focus on what the next century will look like. Honestly, I just want to see Horizons back at the park in some shape or form. Which extinct ride from early Disneyland, like before 1980, would you most want to ride now? I didn't know much about it until I started doing the Star Tours video, and I learned more about what the attraction was. Adventure Through Inner Space. It actually looked like a pretty good attraction for its time. Some of us think that Disney World should add a 5th park. What do you think the theme might be if they do? It's kind of funny because when I picked this question out a while ago, I was like, Disney World will never build another park. And I think it was just like 2 or 3 days ago, somebody reported that they bought a lot of land close to one of the other parks. So now I think the rumor mill's gonna start up again that, they're looking into building another park. I think we're still a long way off from that happening. I think they're gonna wait to see what happens with Epic Universe first. But if Disney decided to create another theme park, I would hope they would do the nautical theme from Tokyo Disney Sea. I think it's a really cool theme. It's really easy on the eyes. It would definitely stand out when compared to the other Disney parks down there. If they didn't go that route, I would say something space themed. Do you think the changes made to the original Disneyland are keeping with what Walt would want? I grew up with all the classic attractions, but all these new additions are making the park feel less and less like the Disneyland that I knew and loved. You gotta remember what Walt said. Disneyland will never be complete. What I think he meant by that is that Disneyland will always be changing. Nothing will ever stay the same. And I agree with you where these changes kind of take away everything that many people grew up with. I'm in the same boat with Universal Studios Florida. The park is nothing like when I went to it during the 90s. People feel the same way about Disneyland and specifically Epcot. It's not the same park that people remember during the 80s and 90s. But that's how it is. That's business. People like you and me who have been going to the parks, I assume, for a very long time, they're not worried about us because they assume we're going to always come back. They have to worry about the new generations, the younger generations, and find ways to bring people to their parks. I feel like, yes, there were always going to be changes at Disneyland, at Epcot, at Universal Studios Florida. Nothing stays the same forever. But I think in Disney's case, they're smart enough to realize that the classic attractions have to stay there. I don't think you'll ever see the Haunted Mansion go, Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, It's a Small World, Peter Pan's Flight. I think they will stay at the park for a very, very long time. I'm okay with changes at theme parks. It's how you strive and survive. It's a way of life. As long as these changes being made are for the greater good of the park. But as you probably know, and I know, there have been some questionable moves made over the years. Closing Journey into Imagination, closing Horizons, replacing Tower of Terror with Guardians of the Galaxy, just to name a few. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that they are always looking for ways to bring people to the park. Disney does a good job of keeping the old while adding the new. As for if Walt would like these changes, probably not, but Walt's from a different time, and I don't know if he would do as well in business today compared to when he was doing it back in the 50s. That's not a shot at Walt, that's just the belly of the beast. I mean, a lot of things that you and I grew up with probably, I don't know how old you are, but they've changed. Video games aren't the same, movies aren't the same, television isn't the same, and instead of being bitter about these changes, I feel like we should remember the good times that we did have, because I think that's what Walt would have wanted. Don't dwell on the past, just remember all the really good times you had at the park. And again, I could be completely wrong on everything, I really can, but honestly, I don't remember much from my time at the parks now. I remember my time at the parks as a kid, and I'm grateful to have been able to have those moments. Plus now I get to tell people who never got to experience those parks at the time, like, hey, that sucks for you, man. You really missed out on something good. How many theme parks have you been to? If so, which ones? So let's see, off the top of my head if I can get this right. I've been to Magic Kingdom, I've been to Epcot, I've been to Hollywood Studios, I've been to Animal Kingdom. I've been to Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure, when it was open, Wet n Wild Orlando, SeaWorld. I think that's all of them in Florida. Outside of the Sunshine State, I've been to Six Flags Great Adventure, Splish Splash out in Long Island, Luna Park, or Astroland, depending on who you ask, in Brooklyn, Coney Island, New York, and it's been a very long time, but Sesame Place in Pennsylvania. Are you more of a hardcore theme park enthusiast who can do big fast rides and multiple inversions, or are you more about slower, less intense rides? In my younger age, I can do more intense roller coasters, but as I've gotten older, I've kind of stayed away from that. Tend to get motion sickness a lot more now, and if I go on something like the Hulk, it might ruin my entire day, but I got nothing against dark rides, especially if there's like a mix of speed in it, so something like Revenge of the Mummy. So it's probably a combination between the two, leaning more towards slower, less intense dark rides at the moment. What are some core values you look for whenever visiting a theme park? I've never really thought about that. Probably because of years of reinforcement going to Disney and Universal. Alright, so let's see, core values of a park. Gotta have a lot of different types of attractions to it. Has to have pretty good theming all around the park itself. If there's one universal theme, it sticks throughout the entire park, nothing sticks out like a sore thumb. And probably most important of all, no long wait times for any attractions. I know that sounds like a given and it's pretty stupid, but when you think about it, Disney does that pretty well. They have a lot of really good attractions, but they're spread out through all 4 parks at Walt Disney World, so you kind of have to dedicate each park for one day. And I know some people will jump from one park to another in a day, but I don't have that energy and effort anymore to do so. So when I choose a park for the entire day, I want to be able to enjoy it, not get stuck waiting very long times to ride any attraction. I think that's why I like Universal more than Disney, because you have Islands of Adventure and Universal Studios Florida right next to each other. It's just easier, so if one park's packed, you can go to the other, or if you want to go ride something from one park and not the other, it's easier to jump around, and you can take the Hogwarts Express, sit in AC, and enjoy the ride. Between Universal Studios Florida and Walt Disney World parks, which park do you believe carries a bigger childhood experience, memories, etc.? For me, personally, it is Universal Studios Florida. I still remember Kong, Jaws, Earthquake, E.T., Back to the Future, a lot more than I remember the Haunted Mansion, Space Mountain, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. I remember It's a Small World because that song is so annoying, but I feel like the first time I went on the Universal attractions had a bigger impact on me than the Disney ones. I don't know if that's because I was a little bit older and I remember those memories, or if the attractions just stuck out a little bit more. What is one thing that is most important for a long-term successful attraction? People will say how thrilling the attraction is, how exciting a ride can be. I still talk about how immersive an attraction can be. When you think about some of the classic Disney attractions still around today, an attraction like Haunted Mansion, for example, I'm pretty sure many of you remember walking into the mansion, the queue itself, and then when you get on the ride, all those iconic scenes that play out. You remember those ghosts, you remember the ballroom scene. The attraction features a lot of iconic memories and moments. Sure, a ride can be fast and exciting, but if there's no story or theming to it, you don't really remember much about it. That's why I talk about how I remember E.T. so much, because you're in the forest and the smells and the sights, obviously being on a bike and having E.T. in the basket, going through the woods, getting to the green planet. Again, it has a lot of iconic moments, a story that you can remember. If the attraction doesn't do a very good job pulling you into the universe it's trying to create, I don't think then it works well overall. A great example of this is the changes made to Journey into Imagination. Everybody remembers Figment and the Dream Finder, the story that was told, the rhymes, the songs, the charm it had, and nobody remembers Journey into Your Imagination because it was god-awful. It took everything from the original and ripped it out. If an attraction doesn't do a good job bringing you into the story it's trying to tell, then it's not a good ride in my opinion. And again, that doesn't apply to everything. It obviously doesn't apply to roller coasters or water rides, but those are different beasts in themselves. But when you talk about the most successful or iconic Disney and Universal attractions, they all have that one thing in common. A story that has iconic scenes in it that people still remember to this day. Whether that's the Kongfrontation encounter, the gas scene with Jaws, even Back to the Future being able to be in your own DeLorean, hitting 88 miles per hour and going through time. I feel moments like that help an attraction have long-term success, because not only are people remembering those scenes, it makes them want to go on the ride again to experience it. Look at Jurassic Park, for example. It's an attraction that's pretty bland overall, but everybody remembers the encounter with the T-Rex and that 70-foot drop at the end. If the ride doesn't have those moments, I don't think it's as successful as it ends up being. In your opinion, what is the most underrated and overrated ride? Am I crazy to say that Snow White's Scary Adventures is underrated? I know it's terrifying to children. It terrified me as a kid when it was still at the Magic Kingdom. I still thought it was a pretty good ride overall. Still is to this day when I think about it. As for overrated, it's probably a tie between Soarin' and Escape from Gringotts. They're not bad attractions, but I don't feel like either of them live up to the hype that many tell me about. I always felt that Soarin' was just a ride where you're in the sky watching a screen, and Gringotts was always advertised as this roller coaster, but it's not really that much of a roller coaster. It just has a bunch of 3D screens to it. It's definitely a step down from the Forbidden Journey. Have you ever gotten motion sickness from a ride? Many times. It seems lately, anytime I've gone on the Forbidden Journey, I always get motion sickness. There's that one scene with the Whopping Willow, where it feels like you're going backwards and then coming forwards. I have to always close my eyes for that part, because if I don't, I just feel so nauseous afterwards. What type of attractions do you think will prevail? Simulators or real coasters and rides? I don't see either of them going away anytime soon, but I think if you had to say choose one, I think simulators would win out. Not because they're better, but because they're cheaper to make, they're easier to copy, and honestly, they don't cost that much to upkeep. Roller coasters cost a lot more money to build, a lot more money to upkeep, and their shelf life isn't as long as a simulator can be, because you can easily reprogram a simulator to be a different type of IP or something like that. Plus, more people probably would enjoy simulator attractions than roller coasters, because not everybody likes going on those massively intense looping roller coasters that are out there right now. Kim Jong-un wants to know, if I designed a ride that's inspired by him, what would it look like? Wow, what an honor. I've had Michael Eisner and Kim Jong-un in this video. Kim, baby, if I had to make a ride designed and inspired for you, it'd be a haunted house trying to escape from the DMZ. Have you been at IAAPA? What's your opinion on the S&S Axis roller coaster? For those who don't know what IAAPA is, it is the, oh, I'm gonna get this acronym wrong, aren't I? I think it is the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. Basically what it is every year in Orlando, Florida, they host a trade show where companies can show off off the latest and newest technology for theme parks. Best way to describe it is like it's E3 for theme parks. I don't know how many people will get that reference. I've never been to it. I would like to go, but it's all about scheduling for me. I don't really know what stood out this year besides a lot of VR technology being featured. I don't know if VR is the future of theme parks. I have a hard enough time just trying to play my PlayStation VR, so I don't know how theme park VR will take off. I mean, it already kind of failed with Kraken VR at SeaWorld Orlando. Six Flags Great Adventure, I think, tried it for Fright Fest and it wasn't that great. So I don't know what the appeal of VR in a theme park attraction will end up being. As for the S&S Axis roller coaster that was shown off, it looks very innovative, but I don't think I'll ever go on a roller coaster like that. Just seems like there's too much going on. You're going fast, you're going through loops, now you have this other ride system that will twist and turn you as well. I know there's roller coasters a little bit like that out there already. I think X2 at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Not really the same type of ride system, but something like that. Just seems way too much for me. Plus, you gotta worry about that type of technology breaking down more often than the traditional roller coaster does. But you gotta give S&S points for creativity. If you could bring a ride from abroad, obviously not one already being worked on, which would it be? Either Disney or Universal is fine. Definitely Journey to the Center of the Earth from Tokyo Disney Sea. Place that bad boy somewhere within Animal Kingdom. I think it would work out real well there. It's just a really good attraction. It's probably my favorite attraction from Tokyo Disney Sea. If you were to bring back one extinct attraction, what would it be? Okay, so if it was Disney, it would be Alien Encounter or Horizons? Probably Alien Encounter. I love Horizons a lot, but I never got to experience Alien Encounter, so I'd like to crap my pants once at least at Disney. For Universal, it's plain and simple, bring back Jaws. As for what ride I wished I had the opportunity to experience before it closed down, once again, Alien Encounter. I never got to experience it, my parents never wanted to take me on it because it was too scary. Probably for the right reasons, but as an adult now, I'm like, god damn it, I should have gone on it. As for Universal, I've gone on a lot of their attractions, but the only one I never got to experience because I've never been to Hollywood is Backdraft. I would have liked to see that show in person. A lot of explosions, a lot of fires. I thought it would have been pretty cool. What is your favorite Disney and Universal attractions? So Disney is an easy one. Hands down, my favorite attraction is Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Like I said, it was the first attraction I went on when I went to Magic Kingdom when I was a little boy, and I've really enjoyed the roller coaster throughout the years. Honorable mentions, even though I never went on it, would be Alien Encounter, Horizons, and the first version of Test Track. As for Universal, currently my favorite attraction is Spider-Man, but my favorite Universal attraction of all time is Jaws. As for what is my favorite attraction of all time, no matter what park it is, it's still Jaws. I feel like Jaws is the most immersive experience Universal has ever created, due in part to the fact that it has its own dedicated land, you have a live actor playing a skipper to heighten the extent of the story, the fact that it takes place in water, and those animatronic sharks are pretty terrifying when you look at them up close. I feel that combining all of these things together make an experience that is very hard to forget, and that might be because of the whole gas fuel explosion scene, or obviously the shark biting the electric cable, or the skipper shooting a shark at the end of the ride. And yes, I know the water wasn't that deep and the sharks were fake, but I always felt any time I went on it, this trepidation, this tense feeling that something could go wrong. So I guess in some way, the ride portrayed what the movie did. This little voice in the back of your head saying, well, what if something goes wrong? Yeah, there's no sharks around here when you go to the beach, but if you go in the water, what if there is a shark? I mean, think about it. It's the reason why Jaws isn't at any water park. People would be flipping out at the chance that possibly there might be some type of shark. Even though that's not the case, it's in the back of your head. But yeah, Jaws is my favorite ride of all time. It just does so many things well that many attractions can't do today. Do you like toast? I don't hate toast. I can eat toast. I can make toast, so toast is okay. But I'll take a bagel any day of the week. What are your thoughts on Disney Plus? If you have it, that is. I don't personally have Disney Plus, but my sister does. And I will tell you that its value is really, really good. For example, Disney released a $5,000 collector edition of all the MCU movies. So think about about it. Do you want to spend $5,000 on getting all those movies in 4K, if you care about that, or spend $7.99 a month to be able to see all those movies? I don't know, $5,000, $7.99? I think I'll go with the cheaper option, to be honest. Plus, it has almost everything that Disney has released in its lifetime, and you know they're going to add a bunch of new stuff. It really is a game changer for streaming platforms. What kind of video games are you into? There's video game music playing sometimes in your videos. I have been playing video games since I'm 3 years old. The first game I ever played was Mickey Mouse's ABC Safari Hunt for the original Nintendo. Yes, when my parents bought a console for me, all they bought was educational games. And for some reason, MC Kids. I am willing to play any type of game. I'm willing to give anything a try as long as it's fun and entertaining. But genre-wise, I'm kinda into survival horror games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. I'll play platformers like Crash Bandicoot and Mario. First-person or third-person shooters like Titanfall or what's the other game I can't think of off the top of my head? Oh, Uncharted. Yeah, Uncharted. And whenever it's coming out, I look forward to Psychonauts 2. Psychonauts is probably one of my favorite games of all time. What is your level of pro wrestling fandom, and why might so many people, in your opinion, like both theme parks and pro wrestling? Just like video games, I have been watching wrestling from a very young age. Probably around 3 or 4. So that would be the new generation. What a time to be alive, to be watching that type of wrestling. Just like video games, I'll watch any type of wrestling as long as it's entertaining. I don't watch Raw or SmackDown anymore because it's a lot of filler. I'll watch the pay-per-views because obviously that's where the storylines pay off. Definitely right now a lot of NXT and AEW. Usually AEW live and then watching NXT afterwards. New Japan's here and there. You know, there's a lot of good wrestling going on right now, and I think people are just too obsessed about this whole Wednesday night war going on. I mean, you don't have to pick a side, you don't have to be a fanboy of either WWE or AEW. Just enjoy the fact that you have so many options right now compared to like 10 years ago. As to why so many people like both theme parks and pro wrestling, they're kind of the same when you think about it. Each offer an escape for people. They both feature over-the-top characters in ridiculous situations that are fun to experience yourself or to watch in the case of wrestling. You get invested in the storylines, and there's a lot of lights, music, and pyrotechnics. I guess that's why. I mean, I'm not sure. Maybe people who just like theme parks like wrestling. Is that why WCW at Disney Hollywood Studios did so well? I guess theme park fans were pretty big fans of Hulk Hogan too, brother. Also, if you haven't already, go check out OSW Review and Wrestling with Regret. In my opinion, the 2 best YouTube channels about wrestling right now. What is your opinion on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? If you do like them, what is your favorite iteration of the Turtles? Yes, I do like Turtles. Besides Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in the early 90s, TMNT was my favorite franchise out there. I still think I have the action figures from the animated show somewhere in my basement. Also remember playing the video games from Konami a lot in the 90s. I think it was Turtles in Time I couldn't get enough of. As for my favorite iteration of the Turtles, it's definitely the live action version of them. Don't judge me. The first movie was really good. Second, not so much. What is your opinion on the MCU? And what do you think is the most accurate Marvel theme park attraction? The Marvel Cinematic Universe is one of the most ambitious and successful movie franchises of all time. I don't think we'll ever see anything like it again. I know DC tries so hard to do their own universe, but let's be honest, it's never gonna happen. Too many talking heads within DC to get that right. But let's not get off track here. Let's get back to talking about Marvel. I'm looking forward to Phase 4. Looks like they're going all out crazy for those movies, and I look forward to it. And then you have the Disney Plus series as well. So it looks like this Marvel Cinematic Universe just keeps expanding and expanding. I think it's really awesome to see a lot of characters that people never imagined getting their own movie or television series come to life now. Like, I never imagined Iron Man, who's my favorite Marvel character, get its own arc and be the main hero of this MCU franchise. The only thing that has me a little bit worried is when do we hit the reset button on the MCU? I still think we're a far way off from it, but I think it'll be very interesting if they decide to just redo things eventually in like 10 to 15 years. As for the most accurate Marvel theme park attraction, it's an easy answer. It's Spider-Man. What do you think I was gonna say? Ant-Man and the Wasp Nano Battle? That ride's crap. And our last question for the 75k Q&A. Have you ever heard of the tragedy of Darth Plageous the Wise? Oh boy, have I. I've seen that copy pasta way too many times. I know what you wanted me to do, but I'm not gonna do it. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The 75k Q&A Spectacular Part 2 Electric Boogaloo. A huge thank you to each and every one of you for asking a question for this Q&A. I do apologize if I did not answer your question. If you want, you can leave your question in the comment section down below, and if I have time, I'll try to answer it in text form. There was a lot of questions we had. I think I answered over 65 in this Q&A. If I kept going, this video would be longer than 3 hours, and we don't want that. Anyway, thank you to everyone for helping make year 2 of theme park history a massive success. If it isn't for you guys, I wouldn't be making content right now, enjoying making videos about theme park attractions. Work on year 3 has already started, and you'll get your first taste of what's to come in our year 3 trailer dropping on January 1st. Once again, thank you for watching, and until next time, be excellent to each other.